Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our big story this hour. Political turmoil continues to worsen in Sri Lanka as protests against the ongoing economic crisis continues. In the latest, reports now suggest that Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa might have resigned. Cabinet spokesperson said that the Prime Minister agreed to resign. Nalaka Gadahewa, in an interview, confirmed that Mahinda Rajapaksa agreed to step down during the meeting of cabinet ministers. Political sources also say that President during the meeting states that Prime Minister and government should resign because it is no longer possible to act in the face of the crisis. Other media reports suggest that the final announcement will come later today after Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa meets with the MPs. Now, that all-important meeting is underway at the Prime Minister's residence Temple Trees, and reports suggest that local representatives and MPs are likely to meet President Gotabaya today. As the meeting continues at the Prime Minister's residence at Temple Trees, Mahinda supporters have gathered outside, chanting that he should continue as the Prime Minister. But the chorus demanding the Prime Minister's resignation by Lankans is not waning. Yesterday, Mahinda Rajapaksa was heckled by protesters during his visit to Sri Mahabodhi tree in the holy city of Anuradhapura. People with placards demanding his resignation gathered around his convoy. Meanwhile, MP Namal Rajapaksa has issued a cryptic statement. He tweeted out in support of Mahinda Rajapaksa, posting a video of the Prime Minister speaking in Parliament years ago, saying that Mahinda will always be Mahinda Rajapaksa, be it President, Prime Minister, or just an MP. The Prime Minister's visit comes after Sri Lankan Buddhist leaders made a call for cooperation of all political parties to resolve the ongoing crisis in the country. In a letter addressed to the Prime Minister, President, and the opposition, the leaders of the three main Buddhist sects in Sri Lanka asked the government to take immediate action to bring political, social, and economic stability to the country. Meanwhile, the Management Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka met the President and the Prime Minister, along with the leaders of several political parties, to discuss the association's proposals to restore the political and economic stability. The SJB party said they will extend support to the Bar Association of Sri Lanka proposal, which emphasizes on complete abolition of executive presidency. The hectic parleys come amid the rumors of growing unity in the opposition to move on a no-confidence motion against the incumbent government. The all-party meeting happening in Parliament regards when the House next convenes and also the no-trust motion. The world is watching Sri Lanka, which is fighting its worst economic and political crisis. The island nation has been put under a state of emergency for the second time in 5 weeks, as protests over the continued shortage of food, fuel, and medicines continues. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Amanta Pereira, who is a researcher at the Central Queensland University. Thank you for being with us on this broadcast. Now, there seems to be clarity on the resignation of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. There are also reports of a split within the Rajapaksa faction on the issue. Do you think that just the Prime Minister's resignation will suffice, or do you think that President Gotabaya will also have to follow suit?
One thing that is quite clear is that something has to give. It's either the President, the Prime Minister, or the protesters who have gathered on the streets for over a month now. So there have been reports that up until now, the stronghold of the Rajapaksa family seems to be imploding. But just one resignation, and if that is the resignation of Mahinda Rajapaksa, is unlikely to ease the tension that is on the streets and lessen the protests that are going on. If anything, if the protests are to be lessened, I think what is most likely should be that there should be some kind of easing of the economic situation that has been that has kind of creeped into the country. For example, while we've been like talking about whether the Prime Minister is resigning, whether he's staying on, the main government gas distribution company announced today that they have run out of domestic gas for the whole country and people not to queue for gas. So if the situation is to stabilize even a little bit, I think what is needed is some kind of economic stability and some kind of easing of all these economic problems that the people have been facing.
Absolutely. Now, Amanta, the Sri Lankan Buddhist leaders made a call for cooperation of all the political parties to resolve this ongoing crisis. How and why did the Rajapaksa government lose the support of the Buddhist monks who had always backed their politics?
I think the easiest answer for this would be to say that the public demonstrations have been overwhelming and they've also been going on for quite some time. And this is something that Sri Lanka has not seen ever, most certainly not since independence. Usually, the political protests in Sri Lanka are either led by a political party or organizations affiliated to political parties. But what we've seen in these protests is that protesters have made sure that they have remained apolitical. And in some instances, they have in fact made sure that politicians or those affiliated with political parties do not come in and take over the protest. So the anger, the despondency on the streets has been there, has been growing, and not to appear to recognize that would not have been quite advisable. And I think that is why the Rajapaksa family kept losing the kind of support they have all enjoyed so far from the majority Buddhist community and the Buddhist religious leadership.
Now, there also seems to be a division in the opposition camp. Do you think that they can come together for the no confidence motion proposed by the SJB?
They can, theoretically, but there will be a lot of backroom dealing. The opposition is divided in so many different ways, but if there is a negotiation that takes place to kind of bring everything together and say, okay, we need to work for this one goal, it can happen, it could happen, but right now it's not clear whether it's going to happen because what we saw last week was that when the new deputy speaker's position was proposed, the opposition candidate actually lost. So in the parliament of 2020, the Rajapaksa faction enjoys a considerable amount of power. And there are 40 MPs who have remained independent. These 40 MPs originally came from the government, but they have remained independent. Now, these 40 MPs will be really important if any motion against the government is to go through. So how those 40 MPs are brought into this no confidence motion to support this is what is going to be crucial.
Absolutely, Amanta. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your valuable insights and joining us on this broadcast.
My pleasure.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.